Welcome to Illo Talk. I am here today with Scott Serkland, and we're going to talk about conventions.
Illo Talk interviews.
All right, so welcome to Illo Talk. Thanks for coming on.
Hey Cory, how's it going?
Going good. So give us a quick rundown of who you are and why we're having you on, I guess.
Okay, yeah. So I am Scott Serkland. I have a company called Circworks Art Labs, and it's basically where kind of art meets mad science. And I do a lot of robots, aliens, zombies, other imminent threats to humanity. I do some conventions, so I guess that's what we're going to talk about today. But yeah, I do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I kind of wish we could be closer.
Well, you're in Arizona, right?
Yeah, I am in Arizona, so maybe we could just just kind of be in the same space. So anyway, we're actually, that was a dumb joke, but we wanted to do that really bad.
There's a lot of setup for that dumb joke.
Maybe we'll go back to it every once in a while
okay.
and just pretend like we're not in the same spot. So anyway, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was because I'm going to try to get kind of in frame. There we go.
I can move over here. Am I still there? There. Okay.
Was because I have zero experience with conventions, other than I went to one convention in Salt Lake once, and I was invited to go to San Diego 10 years ago or something.
To just go or to exhibit?
I had, this is in a different career, a different life.
Okay.
I had been part of building an exhibit, and so the company that I was working for, I have to be careful, was contracted to make a very large, well-known pirate ship that is black.
All right.
And so, so I was down there to film that or whatever. And so then I wasn't into the artist scene. I wasn't into the anything, and I didn't even know there was an artist alley. And so I look back and it was this big media spectacle, but I didn't even see any artists there because I didn't go out of my way to go find them.
Okay.
Yeah, and then years later I went down to Salt Lake Comic-Con, and that was probably 7 years ago or something. That's it.
And that was just to attend. That wasn't to.
That was just to attend. Yeah, and so I met some really cool people. I met Brandon Dayton and Jake Parker and Cam Kendall and whatnot, and it was great. It was really awesome. Fast forward a number of years, now I have just finished the inks on my book, and I'm looking to kind of start promoting it. Right. And so you're kind of aware of what my work is, but I want to talk about maybe what are some successes that you've had at conventions. You can start any way that you want, print or booth or. And first thing I would tell you is kind of what you already did. You did kind of you said you went to one. Was it Salt Lake that you didn't know about artists? No, you must have known about Artist Alley. You saw artists there. Right.
Okay,
so San Diego had no idea.
That's the first thing to kind of get a feel for it. Lay of the land and everything, and kind of what's going on before you actually drop some money on a table and everything. So that's kind of. I'm trying to think of my first ever convention. I was invited by a friend of mine who has a company doing art prints and stuff like that and everything. But he started his own convention. It was a Halloween themed convention because I kind of do that kind of stuff. So he knew the kind of stuff I did, but at that point I didn't do prints or anything. So I went out and just designed some different. My version of Frankenstein and Dracula and all that kind of thing. Characters that mostly in the public domain. I mean, those are kind of iffy because if you make them look too much like Universal, then they aren't. But if they're based on the book, so I kind of made my own version. And there's certain things that you can't, like with Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't think you can call it Creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean, again, this is everyone's going to do their own thing. People do fan art all the time, so I'm just. For me, I'd like to do my either public domain stuff or my own original properties. So, but that's up to whoever wants whatever they want to show. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I did this kind of stuff, and I made some like different, like this trading card game where it was kind of the exquisite corpse. Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like you take like the head, the body, and the legs and everything, and then so I made these cards and could do that. And what else did I have that first show? I'm trying to remember. I actually, you know what? I had some. No, I didn't bring it to that. I think I had some parody stuff. You know, so it was straddling the line of fan art. It was so. So now I'm trying to think if I actually exhibited at Phoenix Comic Con before that. it's all a blur. But anyway, so I did these. I did that convention, and you know, it was kind of a startup thing. So it was kind of good to get your feet wet and everything. And that's another thing I might recommend is start with a smaller show. Now, not necessarily in your case, because Salt Lake's a big, you know, a big con. Right. And I don't think you're in a position where, I think you're in a position probably where you can probably afford to kind of experiment a little bit. I mean, this isn't your livelihood yet, or, you know.
Yeah, because I have a day job, so if I don't make my table or whatever, you know, I just...
Because that could be difficult. Although the first, you know, big Comic Con I did was Phoenix Comic Con. In my first year, I did really well. I made well over table, and made a profit and everything. Now looking back, I don't know if some of that was because I had some like, you know, kind of like the t-shirt designs, like the parody. Like I had one that was like, it was Tron Burgundy. So, you know, but this is before I don't even know if that might have been before. Okay, I'm kind of going to go all over the place because I'm trying to remember all this works, but I don't think I had the brand, so I must have done the Halloween first, because I remember at that point, and that's almost the origin of the whole Serkworks Art Labs, because I was trying to think, because I was doing all kinds of different stuff, and I'm like, well, I like to do robots, I like to do aliens, I like to do zombies. You know, how does all this stuff tie in? How can I tie all this into a brand? And I started thinking, well, aliens, you know, if there's this sort of clandestine, like, secret lab, maybe they have alien technology and they're doing experiments with that. If, you know, maybe in the same lab a zombie outbreak, you know, happens, or, you know, as far as like the robots, you know, you build robots in a lab. So all these things I like to do, I thought, well, what if it centers around a lab? And that's kind of when, because before that, I mean, there's always been Serkworks since back in 1999, I think, is when I first started the company. But back then it was you know, freelance, and I would do character design and develop you know, branding for people, usually based on a trademark character that I would design for them, plus a logo and all that. So I did that for a while, but at that point, you know, I kind of wanted to kind of move away from that. So, and that's kind of when I came up with the idea for the whole Mad Scientist Lab. And I'm really, because I did come from sort of that branding, you know, background, that's really important to me, is how am I going to brand this? How am I going to pull all this stuff together? And I had to sacrifice some things, because I had a children's book too that I wrote it and everything, and it wasn't fully illustrated, but it was basically how it's kind of like a family, or what every kid needs to know about the family vacation. And it just kind of went through. It's all real tongue-in-cheek, but just all the crazy stuff that happens on a family vacation. But it didn't fit in the thing, so I just kind of abandoned it, you know. Yeah. So sometimes you know, I don't want to say you have to do that, but in my case, that was something that I did. So I created the brand and everything, and you know, when I kind of go into this and it's talking about successes and failures, I don't know I mean, there's been like little failures or setbacks, but, and again, I'm all over the place, but that first show, like I said, I did really well. I don't know how much of that had to do with that kind of pop culture stuff. Yeah. Because it wasn't long after, I think, based on that, because I had one artist alley table. You know, it's pretty small. But then I didn't have that many products, so obviously that's all you're going to want. That's all probably you're going to have to fill. And I don't know kind of what you're going to do, if you're going to do like some prints or some things that go along, or how you're going to brand the whole thing.
That's one of the things that I wanted to talk to a bunch of people about is I don't really know. Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to bring. Yeah. Because I mean, I've got, you know, I've got the stickers that I've been doing, which work on a number of different products. I've got the original pages. They're all it's 40 pages hand inked. I've got the book, which I hopefully will have printed by then. I think I will. And then I've been doing the illustration for a couple of years, and so I'm trying to figure out exactly like what to bring. Because I know
I like the stickers a lot. If you can make it cost effective, because stickers seem to be a really good sell, and they don't necessarily have to know it. What it is, as long as it looks cool. I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'm thinking, and tell me what you think here. I've got a couple questions based on what you're saying, but I was thinking of actually bringing, like, if I were to do, instead of selling individual stickers, sell sticker packs.
Yeah, I do that.
So do like 5 at a time, or something like that. What do you charge for?
Mine I think are 8, and there's 4 stickers. They're about yay big. I do them myself on chemical labels, so they're waterproof. Now they're not super high glossy like that might be a bigger selling point, but I don't know as far as what that runs. So that's the thing, is the cost, like, because sometimes stickers can be pricey. You can find good deals on them, but like I've got stickers before where even with, like, I had a Groupon for this company that did stickers, and even with the Groupon I couldn't turn them around. They're too, they're basically for if you wanted stickers for yourself, but there's no way to make a profit off of them. So, but I know there's people that sell stickers, so there's got to be some place out there that you can have them done.
Yeah, I found a couple things. One is you can run them through China, if you've got enough time.
Right.
But my concern with that is you can get the cost per unit down significantly, but you have to, your minimum order is pretty high.
Yeah.
And so I don't necessarily, that's one of the things is I would like to, I'd like to have just enough inventory, to turn it all over, but not like so much that I made a lot of profit on each individual unit, but I still have all this money tied up in inventory, and here it is in this case in my basement or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know, because that's one thing. The other thing is local print shops will often do this type of thing.
Right.
And I've got a deal with a local print shop, and those die-cut printers are actually a lot more universal than they used to be a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna invest in like the Cricut maker.
The Cricut, yeah.
Yeah. So and that way I can do my own cutting and everything like that. So those. You can get a regular Cricut machine, I think, for around $300. I think the makers are more in the $4 or $500 range, but it's if you're serious, it's a good investment. I can think of all the different things I can do, because I think it does like balsa wood, and if I really wanted to drop some money, there's this thing called a glow forge that basically laser cuts everything. Right. Yeah. But those are couple $2 or $3 grand. So I'd love to have one of those, but I don't know. Maybe I'll start out with a maker.
Yeah, no, I keep seeing I must fall into their target demo, because I keep seeing those ads all the time.
Well, I've looked at them so many times. They know. Yeah, I'm thinking about it, so they keep sending me stuff.
It's just a matter of time before they get you. So one question that I've got, and there isn't an answer, but I'm interested in your opinion. How important is being singular in your branding? Because like, for example, this is a Japanese fairy tale that I've been doing, and it's a lot of plants and trees and rocks and birds and rivers and cliffs and stuff. But like, I also have this almost kind of skate vibe going on with everything else, and so I'm kind of all over the place.
I think for me it's important, but I don't know that it has to be important for everyone. That's just kind of the way I kind of operate.
Yeah.
But I think obviously the style is somewhat similar. The one thing that I have found that may be a detriment to me is that I have too many different things. I have so many different SKUs and things like that. So a lot of times people don't know what to make of it. And you can't sit and here I'm explaining to you that I brought it all under one umbrella as a mad science company. Before it was just Serkworks Art Lab, but then I started realizing people don't know what that means. So now the major thing is Mad Science Supply Company. I've still got the Serkworks Art Labs, but now all over the place it's Mad Science Supply Company and Mad Science Supply Company, because people can put 2 and 2 together and figure out what that's about.
Yeah.
And because before it's like having to explain, and I wear the green lab coat and all that kind of stuff, so that I just try to tie all that stuff in. but the other thing you kind of have to worry about, in addition to too many SKUs, but I don't know that I would have it any other way. That's kind of just what I like to do different things. So
Right.
I would probably, if I just pick one thing and did that, I'd probably do a lot better. And you see that in if somebody's just got prints, or they concentrate on one. Like I saw one guy, I exhibited next to one guy, and all he had was Overwatch. That's all his fan art was, just Overwatch. And he was of course, again, that's fan art, so you're basically piggybacking on millions of dollars of advertising that you're getting for free. So that guy did really well. But I mean, he could have easily introduced Star Wars or whatever, but he concentrated on one thing and he did really well. So
Yeah.
so if like, I don't want to say money, but success is kind of the thing. That's one thing that you're probably better off going the direction of like one thing or a couple things, especially if you're just starting off, because you might not have all these different things. But for me, I just like doing different things. But the other thing I was going to say is that when I started off, because I'm so big in branding and presentation and everything, my booth for the longest time up until this last show I did was, I mean, I had, my tabletop was designed to look like a conveyor belt. Mm-hmm. I had, all these, like if you've seen the Underground Lair in my videos, I had all the, the pipes and everything, kind of Willy Wonka meets, Nickelodeon, that type of look to it. So, but the problem was, when you're at a convention, there's so much of this stuff, eye candy, all over the place, that it gets confusing. Right. So as much as I love that look, and you would get comments from time to time like, "Oh man, this is like the best booth. I love your booth and everything," and, but for most people, it's just like, "Whoa, what is this? Too much."
Yeah, I did a show one time years ago for a company that I was the director of marketing for, and I did that, and it was a music company, and people thought we sold signs. Like right. They came by and they're like, "Oh, so you guys make like signs?" And I was like, "No, like look what the signs say."
Yeah. Right.
But they were like, "Oh, and so I totally missed the boat on that one. And the next year I came and I was like, "Here's the product,"
Right,
and
yeah.
they were like, "Oh, okay, good."
Yep.
But yeah, so and that's another thing is I was looking at booths because I have been an award-winning booth designer at major shows in a different career. And so I was looking at like, I'm going to build this, elaborate thing. But then I was like, no, I'm going to learn that lesson that I should have learned, 15 years ago. So actually what I'm thinking about doing, I'm wondering what you think about this, just those grids. I mean, they're just like super cheap little square grids that you get and you just kind of zip tie them together and then you just hang art on them.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just going to have
a lot of people do those. I personally, I don't like those because I guess it depends on the configuration, but I don't like to be in a little window. Like I want to, for me, and a lot of people, they're at their desk, they're drawing or whatever, and just depending on how you do it. Like if I don't really do commissions or anything, but what I want to do is I want to like stand up and I want to, talk to people and kind of be able to reach out and do all that stuff and shake people's hands and do all that. And so I don't like to be kind of in that little window of boxes, so.
Yeah, and that's because I've seen that, and I don't like that configuration either. But I was just trying to figure out a way, because the biggest mistake I think people can make in any kind of situation like that is to not get stuff up off the table. If it's all flat,
right? Yeah.
Then it's below people's eye line, and everybody's just gonna.
Yeah, and that used to be like a major thing, like. That's something I constantly tell people, but I think now with everyone's got to step up their game with all the competition, so you don't see too much of that now. Maybe if you're somebody starting off, something you definitely want, but you don't want one or the other, you want both, because there's also the people that kind of, they walk like this and they kind of look down, and they don't want to make eye contact, so you want something a little lower, where they can see it on your table too, so you don't want everything up this way, but you want a little bit of both. So
yeah, the other thing that I've been thinking about doing is they have these signs that are kind of an infinite scroll. Have you seen those?
No, but I kind of have a visual.
Yeah, there's two rollers, right? Okay. There's two rollers, and they kind of just, where's the camera? Go like that. There's two rollers, and they just spread them out, and the top one or the bottom one has a motor. And so it just spins, and it's just a conveyor belt, but it's a printed sign that's in a loop.
That's pretty cool.
And I'm thinking just one of those would be enough motion to be able to catch people's attention and bring them to the table.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, I never heard that. Yeah.
I'm gonna edit that out then, because no, I'm just kidding. I don't want to. I mean, they're like they're like $500 or $600.
Yeah.
But they run on batteries and they go forever. And
now they run on batteries? That's another big thing, because electricity would cost you extra no matter where you go. So that's
right. Because that was the other thing that I was thinking, and I think I've gotten away around this too. I mean, both of us have a lot of drawing on YouTube, right? We've got hundreds of videos, thousands of hours of us drawing. And I think people like watching people drawing. So one thing that I was thinking of doing is having just a big, giant video that just plays on a loop of me drawing, so that people can, because the biggest thing for me is I want people to glance and within like 3 seconds know exactly what it is that they're looking at, right? And so I was looking at getting a TV. Yeah,
that's another thing. I know I was watching a video with Will Terry. I don't know if you saw the one, but he tried that, and I guess he abandoned that because I don't think people were making the connection that, oh, he's drawing live or whatever. And I actually talked to him at the last convention at Phoenix and did a little interview with him. But yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of great videos on this kind of stuff, and that's one thing that he said that he did try. So, but I mean. Mileage may vary, I guess. I mean,
right, and I see a lot of the barriers to it. I mean, I don't want to have to carry a TV in. Renting a TV from the unions is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, you don't want to rent, because a chair, you could buy 6 chairs for what they'll rent you a chair for one chair.
Right.
So don't.
No, I was looking at the website. They literally were going to charge for a piece of paper that they folded in half that has your name on it. $36.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like,
rent anything.
This is ridiculous.
And I don't know if Salt Lake is a union show. There's another bunch of expenses. Like, I know Phoenix was weird because like they this year they have like a pallet service where I just took my stuff off, loaded on a pallet, they brought it in, and there was no extra charge for it.
That's cool.
That was really cool. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what the salt house is. I'll have to take a look. I don't know if it's union or not. Because the other thing that I did at this other gig when I was doing the show, because I did this show twice a year for 6 years, and it's a big show in Anaheim. And one thing that I did is I got the union rule book, and I figured out exactly how and when the union needed to get involved, because you start paying them like $225 an hour per person.
Yeah, and I mean, people doing comic conventions, I mean, they're I mean, that may be like, if you're a trade show, that's one thing, because these are usually big companies. But I mean, it's just
you might not make that.
No, yeah, exactly.
You might not make that. 1 hour's labor setting up your booth. Yeah. So what I did is I went through the rule book and I found exactly when. Because before I showed up, they were doing like, there'd be like 12 guys for like a day to set this big steel giant monstrosity up. And I was like, dude, that is costing you tens of thousands of dollars just to set your booth up. So anyway, so my big thing was like, and I found that it was power tools. And so I built an entire booth that could be put together with hand ratchets.
Okay, yeah.
And then the union boss came over and he's like,
for me, it's Velcro.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So there's always some sort of thing. But I was like, no, it says here like power tools if the tool is powered, and he's like, you have to take one guy. I said, okay, I need one guy for an hour. And so I cut it down from like 12 guys for 8 hours to one guy for 1 hour. Right. But yeah, so I don't know. I'll have to research what that is. But Velcro, is that because they charge you to like attach things, or
no? It's not a power tool thing. No, because Phoenix is not really like a union town, but just for ease of use. Like I used to bring a whole kit, and I had like my first booth was this is the other thing as far as getting confused. So I mentioned the little exquisite corpse things with the heads and the bodies and and they're all different monsters, and you can mix and match them. So my first display was three things that kind of hung from you know, a sort of a backdrop thing. It was all, back then it was all like PVC and everything. And I built this thing that spun. Like, so the heads would spin independently of the bodies and the legs and everything, and there were 3 of them. So now it wasn't, I would have liked to have them like actually like motorized or spinning that, but I would just kind of turn them like Vanna White every once in a while like that. And it was so difficult to get that thing to work. If I was going to do it again, I've got a better way now to do it, like with like Lazy Susan on top of Lazy Susan type of thing. But before, it was, I mean, this thing was just so elaborate and complex, and it was very difficult to set up. It was cool, but again, it got confusing. And the other thing back then, I didn't anticipate was I didn't have, because depending on what kind of shows you are, some of them will give you the pipe and drape, some of them won't. So you have to kind of think what's happening beyond you. Now Phoenix had a pipe and drape, but it only goes up so high. So depending on the rules and everything, so I've got these things. I don't know if you can see this over here.
We can if we do that.
Well, it's okay. So this is basically on like it's suspended from these Ravelli stand, these lighting stands. So now I've got a few of those. We could go back to the other view, but and I can go higher above the pipe and drape they give me, and I don't like to count on who, unless it's, and there are some shows that won't let you have that.
Yeah.
But if it's a question of them providing it or not letting, or you know, or whatever, I mean, if they don't let you have it, then you don't really have an option. But sometimes it only goes so high, and if you want to go higher, then I bring my own, and because otherwise your stuff, like I had a sign and then in these spinning things or whatever, but there's, you know, whatever's behind that, you see through it, so you need something to kind of block that. So, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what kind of decision process do you go through to decide what type of stuff you're going to print, how much you're going to print?
Right. Well, for me, again, it's different because I don't sell fan art, so I don't have anything that's like, this one sells like crazy, you know. So my print runs are relatively small. I might bring 5 of each, and if it sells out, then it sells out, you know. But I've got tons. Like I said, I got tons of different SKUs and everything. So, but I've got other stuff, you know, on the table. So, and it's really hard for me because I don't have that one thing or whatever. Trying to figure that out. So I usually bring more than I sell, and I'm toting the stuff around. So, and I also sell like little science experiment things, and those did really well for me this year. So I brought a lot of those, and some of them I sold through, some of them I didn't, but I had enough of them, you know. If that particular one was gone, there was another one that somebody might buy if they didn't see that one. So, and what else did I have? You know, I've got different size prints. The other thing that I would recommend, and some people can do prints that are different sizes of the same prints. I don't really recommend that because it seems like people will always go for the smaller print. So like my smaller prints are like kind of these warning signs like you would see in a lab or something, and then my bigger prints are more, you know, illustrative. And then you always get people that say, "Do you have this in a smaller print?" Now I have 3 size prints. So the large and the extra large, those I will print those I'll print on 2 different sizes because the profit margin is the same. You know, if I sell a big one, I make just as much as if I sell if I sell an extra large, I make as much as I sell a large for. That's not necessarily the case with the 8x10. So so there's that. You know, and it's definitely don't have a big print and then also print another postcard because they're just going to get the postcard. So all my different sizes are different style, you know, prints. So I sell everything from postcards. I sell original, like my blueprint sketches. I've got the lab products. I've got stickers. I've got buttons. I've got bow ties. I've got what else do I have? I've got messenger bags. Just all kinds of stuff. So if you ever been to my store, a lot of the stuff is on there. So.
So why do you do shows? Why are you doing that? What is your goal?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, there, you know, you do. I mean, you can make money at shows, and if I did more shows, and I don't do a lot of shows, but I think the ones that I do, I think I do all right at. So, but part of it's getting out there, kind of letting people know about the brand. There's always people that, you know, starting to get return customers and things like that. So, and part of it's just the environment. I like cons. I like that whole atmosphere. I like hanging out with my friends and other people I exhibit and meeting people and everything. So it's kind of the experience. And some people will go to con. They don't make any, you know, they don't make table, or they just make table, and they're happy to do it because it's the experience. You know, for me, I want to be able to make a profit, but I do enjoy that whole experience and everything. So it's just kind of a you know, it's a fun thing. It's, you know, I guess when you take into the like the preparation and all the stuff that goes, I mean, that's something I don't think so much about, but I probably should, because there's a lot of time involved, and time is money too. So, you know, but I think now I've kind of got my booth at a place where I really like it. So I don't think that I'm gonna have to make a whole lot of changes moving forward. And it seems to be working what I'm doing now. So,
so given the promotion side of it, have you seen things that work well leading up to the con, to trying to drive more traffic to your booth, kind of as a, because you hear a lot about like contests and giveaways and that type of thing. Have you seen anything along those lines?
I don't know, because so last convention, Phoenix brought me out as a guest, and I did an exclusive design for them. It was you know, it was kind of tied into their whole thing. It was their slogan is "Discover Your Inner Geek." So I did a guy version of a geek, and it's kind of annotated, and it would show different things that kind of make up the stereotypical geek for both a guy and a girl. So I had 2 prints. I featured it on the website, in the program, like almost when you first open it's there, and those didn't really do that well. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. So I don't know. It's almost like the audience is kind of there, but I don't know how you bring people in. Like I did this last time, I did get a lot more people noticing me from YouTube and things like that. Oh yeah, and you're on YouTube and this and that. And some people just kind of came up to me like they knew me, and they didn't say that they knew me from YouTube, and I'm like, well, that must be why, you know. And I don't have like a huge channel, but I imagine if you had like 100,000 subscribers or something, that would really, because I see people like at shows like Katie Cook or somebody who has massive following, they can bring people in. You know, I'm not at that level yet, but I think if you do kind of get at that level, you can do that. So
yeah, that makes sense. How about capturing people after the show? You know, because a lot of times you'll have people in any situation where you're doing marketing or selling or whatever, they have an engagement with the brand. They might even make a purchase, but then afterwards there's nothing, no connection. So
I've always kind of had postcards and things. I don't know. Postcards are like a weird thing, you know. I don't know if people keep them, if they hold on to them, or what, if they go to your website or whatever. I don't know how many people actually look at the postcard. I mean, I do notice when I do a show, my Instagram and everything and Facebook page will start going up in likes. So some people do kind of look at that and find me on the social media that way. The one thing that I did this year that was almost like a game changer for me was, last year, previous to this one that I just did, I exhibited next to a friend of mine, Jeremy Burley, and he's been on the Artcasters and everything, and he's been doing YouTube for a long time, back in the Art and Story days and everything. He's involved in that, but he was doing this. He just had postcards, and he just like, free postcard, and I just watching him, and these people pick it up, and it's like a postcard. I mean, this is the kind of thing that people kind of give away for free, but it seemed like more often than not, people were happy to get that postcard. So, you know, I told him, I said, I'm going to take your idea, but I'm going to do it with stickers. So I had some, as inexpensive as I could find, just little stickers about yay big, inch and a half by inch and a half, or 2 inches. And it was basically just an advertisement for me, Circworks Art Lab, with my URL and everything. And I would just like, free sticker? Man, that got, I mean, that brought people in. And then when you get their attention, then you can start talking about what you're doing in here, and sometimes they're like, oh, that's cool, and they go, or something. A lot of times they stick around, and because sometimes people will like your stuff, but like I said, there's so much stuff they're not paying attention. They could totally like pass you up, even though it's something that they might like. Right. So if you can kind of get them just briefly to see kind of what that is, and it's not like you don't want to be like a carnival barker where you're just like, I mean, I wait until there's eye contact or something like that, you know, or just anything like that, and then I kind of make the move on that, and that really worked well. So I printed up like almost I think 1,000 stickers. I probably went through about 900 of them or more. So those are either in the trash somewhere, or on somebody's notebook, or in their pocket, or on their desk somewhere. So that's all out there with my URL. So whether they look me up a month later, or not at all, or a year down the road, or whatever, I mean, that stuff's kind of out there. So.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
How about etiquette? What kind of faux pas
you got something
have
popping
you seen?
up there?
I probably need to plug that in actually. What kind of faux pas or problems or whatever have you seen that people do?
Keep asking, I'll.
So for example, I'm going to change camera angles here. What kind of things have you seen people do that will cause, other artists to be super annoyed, or to cause like people to be kind of turned off, or those type of things? This is the cool thing about a live show.
Is that working?
Yeah, that should work.
Okay. All right. You're gonna have to kind of go through the question one more time.
That's okay. While we're doing that, and since we're facing the screen now, say hi to everybody. And we've got a couple people in the chat. We've got Adam and Abe, and Holly. Holly's saying, I have a sticker place for you that's really good. So
cool. Yeah, because Holly's the one that I got the idea for the chemical labels from. So
okay, cool.
So she's got a better thing than I will definitely check that out.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you can put links in the chat, but you can hit me up on Twitter or something. But yeah, and then so the question was, let me go back to this shot. The question was, I don't want to be that guy, the guy where like other artists or fans, like they leave and they're like, oh dude, that dude is an idiot. Okay. He was doing X. Like what are the kind
of the one big one that happened to me, and like I was talking about before, as far as kind of extending my backdrop up, one of the things that really gets me is when people have like the double-sided signs. Mm-hmm. Like I exhibited next to somebody who it was like a independent comic book publisher, but they're not super small, they're not super big, but somewhere in the middle. I won't mention who they are. But there were a couple of them actually, and they had the big giant drop, and I didn't, at the time, I put up my backdrop, and they hadn't raised theirs to their height, but after I did, they went up above it, and so on the opposite side above my thing is their branding. So I had some guy coming up complaining about some character. I had no idea what they were talking about. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm not that person. So don't do that,
Yeah, that feels like you're stealing somebody else's booth space.
Yeah. The one thing that I did that I was a little nervous about, but I don't think it's the same thing, is like, so my booth, because you can put like, whatever's on your table or whatever, facing whatever direction. So in order to get traffic coming from here, like on the side of my booth, so here's my stand. Mm-hmm. I've got all my prints and stuff here, and then off the stand, going this way, so if people are walking here, I had Mad Science Supply Company vertically down that way and on the other side, but it's not facing any other, person. It's when you look at it, it's before you look at my booth. So I don't think it's the same thing, but that's another, and I know I'm kind of going to a different topic, but as far as getting traffic, that's one thing I started doing, because back when we were talking about, you look up here, down here, but then I'm thinking, I want to catch people from all sides.
As they're looking down.
But not the backside. Not somebody else's booth, but so as far as that's a definite faux pas for me. The carnival barker is a big one. You don't want to be the guy that's like, hey, what can I do to put you in this comic book today? And just like,
step right up. Let me guess your weight.
There could be exceptions if you can kind of fit it into your brand. But it's really shaky ground to do that.
Right.
So there's that. But it's just being a good neighbor to your other exhibitors. Like I always share things, you know, if I, you know, like I had an exhibitor who forgot, or they had ordered bags but they didn't came in, so I was giving her some of my bags and things like that. And so yeah, it's always good. It's always good to make friends with the people you're exhibiting next to and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm trying to think other than that. I don't know. Is there anything that's sticking out to you?
No. While you're talking though, I have another question. Like, what are some of the things that that I should think of that I'm probably not going to think of? Like you had just mentioned bags.
Okay.
I remember the con that I went to.
Checklist.
There was one guy who was like giving out these big, like 12 by 18 bags that were clear with his branding on it, and I was like, that's genius, because I'm going to stick everybody else's art that I'm buying today in that.
Right.
So like, what type of things do you have on your checklist?
Oh, I'd have to look at it, but the one thing that I almost always forget, I haven't yet, but I almost always forget, is the change. So when I get like $100 and break that up into like 5s, 10s, maybe few 20s, but people mostly give you 20s because that's what ATM spit out. But you got to make sure you have change. That's a big one, because that's always like the last minute thing that I always forget. Some kind of like a phone charger, like the issue we just had.
Right.
I bought a solar one, and it stopped working, but maybe that was just that particular brand or whatever. But they make the real nice kind of solar ones, or just like the ones that are pre-charged or whatever. That's always something you want to have. Definitely your Square reader, or whatever brand of, whatever way you want to take credit cards. That's a big one. But there's all kinds of little things like, and I don't know if on my older videos if I put up a checklist. I know I have a video on my YouTube page that's basically, I think it's just like the convention checklist, and I kind of go through all the different things. So if you watch that and pick and choose, there's some things that you may never need, like, you know, like one thing you might want to bring is like just one of those multi-tools with a little screwdriver, a little, you know, pliers or whatever, things like that. You can go as far as like sewing kits, like if you have a thing that, or if a cosplayer needs some help. That's another thing, just helping people out. Like if you happen to have a sewing kit and you've got a cosplayer that's having problems with their costume, you just offer them, say they can use your sewing kit or things like that. But you know, there's so many different things. But yeah, off the top of my head, that's why I have a checklist, because I can't think of it off the top of my head. But I can share that with you. You can kind of watch that video. Okay. But yeah, definitely don't go in there without a checklist. You know, because you will forget something. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to switch just a little bit, and if you think of anything else on cons.
One other thing. Is if you do, because like I said, I don't bring a lot of prints, but if I need to get prints, like sometimes I'll do like a Costco run. They cost me a little more than if I was going to go to Cat Print for or something, but I can get them right then if I need to. So they have like a fairly quick turnaround. So if I sell out one day, I can place an order while I'm at the show and then pick them up, you know, before the show or whatever. Or well, maybe not, but I can have a friend of mine or my girlfriend or somebody run to me. So that's something. So find maybe a source, especially if you're traveling, a source where you can get prints quick if you need to restock or whatever. So
yeah, that's good advice. I like that. I'm trying to think. We went over booth. We went over promotion before, promotion after, inventory, cost. Yeah. So. What if anything do you do to promote your YouTube channel or your Instagram while you're at the show?
Well, it's on my postcards. It usually has all my social media links. So I have, in addition to the stickers, I still do have postcards and everything. So that's the main thing. At some point I did do a thing where if they signed up for my mailing list, which I never did anything. Now I am going to be redoing I got a plan for my mailing list moving forward, so I may be implementing that. There's that. I did have a thing like you get a free button or something if you sign up for the newsletter there. It's for me. I think it's easier to do that if you do something online with give away something online to build your mailing list, because it's all digital. They don't have to go home and actually, or on their phone and actually type in the thing. It's just a matter of they're already on the computer and they're clicking. or they're automatically, you know, enrolled in it. No, they not automatically. They know they're joining the mailing list to get a free something or whatever. So I don't know how well that works. Another thing I've heard people do is like I haven't done it, but like kind of like a fishbowl thing where they, you know, enter your, you know, drop your business card or whatever in there, and then you know, make it known that you know, that can be on your email list or whatever. I've heard people doing that, but yeah, I don't know. Just basically, just as far as social, it's another thing. I haven't done this, but I know people have done like the QR codes or like the snap code where it's up here, because then it's just a matter of bump, you know, and then they're you know, following you or whatever. So that's something that I think I was going to do that last time, but I just didn't have time to make the little cards up. So so that's something you can do. Yeah,
that makes sense. You could also do like a landing page on your website. You know, like corykerr.com/.
Well, yeah, and I do that, but I mean on Instagram I'll put my booth number, or sometimes you put a map where you're located or whatever like that, and on Facebook, and usually beforehand I'll do video on YouTube. But of course, you know, if I'm at Phoenix Comic Con, I mean, the percentage of people that actually in Phoenix that watch my YouTube channel is super small. Right. So who knows? You know, who knows if that's actually bringing people in? You know, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. So before I switch, if anybody has any questions in the chat or any comments, we'd love to hear those. And we'll just be kind of switching up just a little bit, and then we'll wrap this up. I just have a couple questions about kind of art in general.
Okay.
So you've been doing this for a long time, and have mentioned publicly several times that you have no plan B, which is kind of awesome. It's kind of that, you know, like burn your boats behind you type thing. Right. I like that. But given that, what do you do about inspiration? What do you do about creativity, given that you have put yourself in a position where you want to and have to constantly come up with new ideas? Like idea generation, I think, is one of those kind of vague unknowns as you're starting in art, and so I'm always curious what people do. Like, do you have some practices, or?
Well, one of my go-tos is, what can I make into a robot? You know?
Right.
So that's, you know, there's that. That's always sort of a go-to. And again, because it's almost like the thing where if you're working with the client and they give you direction, or if you sometimes, rather than just total blue sky, because that gets really intimidating, you don't know what you're doing. But if you kind of have boundaries, sometimes that sparks the most ideas because you have to figure out, well, how do I fit everything? So since I already have a brand, I have ideas as far as, well, what kind of fits the brand. So one thing that I do, and it's not, if I had to come up with ideas like on the spot, that would be difficult for me. I mean, it happens, you know, from time to time, but I have like an Evernote list that anytime I come up with an idea, I jot it down. So I've got so much stuff to pull from. I've got ideas for prints and different kind of, you know, business ventures, or different product lines, or all that kind of stuff. So I could all come in. You guys can't see it. All right.
So the other end of that same question is, when you have so many ideas and so many different projects that you want to do, what are some of the criteria that you go through to decide how to invest your time? Like, this is something that I definitely want to do, whereas this is something I'll do if I have time later. This isn't that important. How do you kind of triage kind of all of those ideas?
That's probably my biggest problem. You know, there's so much I want to do. So one other thing I try to figure out now is how to get the most out of whatever I'm doing. So if I can create something that can be an art print, that can also be a YouTube video, that can also be whatever else, the more mileage I can get out of one thing, so I'm not, you know, instead of just doing, well, I'm going to do a YouTube video and a print, why not show the process of my print and my YouTube video, plus that's promotion for the print, all that kind of stuff tying in together. And can I take that print and tie it into, like I mentioned this, I think on the Artcasters, I'm going to kind of do a soft rebrand with Circworks, where, you know, a lot of people that follow me on YouTube are comic book artists. So how do I kind of tie the comic books in more with the Mad Science Supply Company? And I remember, you know, the older comics where they had the mail away things, like you mail away for X-ray glasses or sea monkeys or all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think, well, I got all these products, I can make a print that looks like one of those old ads of all my products. So not only am I advertising my products, even if they don't like those products, it's a kind of a cool print. Yeah. And then I can take that print and use it on my homepage, you know, as part of the whole branding and everything. So there's three things right then, tie it into a YouTube video. So that's one of the things that kind of makes me figure out what takes precedence, is if I can get a lot of things out of one thing. So and I try to figure out how I can tie in, like, so with the website there's also, you know, I want to launch the newsletter, and I want to create a digital giveaway product that ties into the comic books, ties into the YouTube, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I'm thinking right now, as far as, you know, what, you know, why, you know, as far as order of when I'm going to start first. So
yeah, that's cool. I like that. Multiple uses is good. Okay, we have a question here. We'll switch back to our pretend to screen thing. So Matthew Enstrom says, one thing that helps me out is packaging everything in my vehicle the night before, so that I'm not rushing around early in the morning loading everything. Oh, that's great.
Good point. And not only packaging the stuff in your vehicle, but do a dry run setup. And I got a video on this. Almost any time I'm doing a booth, I set it up in my house. Now, maybe not everyone has the room. If you got a small apartment, that might be problematic. But whatever you can do, if you can kind of set up a table, like, even though the conventions supply me with a table or two tables, if I'm doing that, I have those size tables at home, so I can set those up. And like I said, I don't take anything into chance what they're going to give me, like, because you know, Phoenix, I think their branding is red and white. If you're in the artist alley, it's black, which is fine because everything, you know, my background's all black. But I mean, if you look at my brand, there is no red in my brand at all. It's all like kind of like, I don't know what you would call it, like just blues and greens and purples and pretty much everything but red. There's no red. The closest thing is like an orange. Yeah. So that red really clashes with what I'm doing. Right. So even if they're providing with those pipe and drapes with the red, I have my own black ones that I bring, and I bring my own backdrops and all that kind of stuff. So but I set everything up beforehand. I'm not sure if I've done the packing in the car, because I do set it up like the day beforehand, like the night before. I don't do it that time, you know, but I haven't like tested everything like a week in advance or everything to see how that all fits. But that's not a bad idea. So, but definitely make sure. Or if you're doing a flying show, that's a whole other. And I haven't done any of those, but getting everything to fit in a suitcase. What can you bring? What do you have to leave out? What can you get when you go to the convention? Like, I don't know if you watch Christopher Keiko. He's got, I mean, check out his stuff and maybe even try to get him on your show. But he does tons of shows, mostly traveling shows. And like, so what he'll do is he's got his own original stuff, but he also has some fan art stuff that he has on the table. And when he goes to a city or whatever, he immediately finds the Walmart and he buys these fairly cheap frames, puts them in the frames, and then if somebody wants it framed, I don't know if he sells it for extra or he gives it to them at the end of the show or whatever. They can have the frame, so they take that. Right. So, but he just buys frames there, because why tote it around when you can find a place where you can just buy it? So I thought that was kind of a cool thing to do. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so my question, I think there are three stages that you could answer this at, and you can do all three or pick any one. But there are artists that are just starting out. They've maybe, you know, begun to draw a little bit. There are artists who've been doing it for several years and are starting to get some proficiency. but don't have much of a following, and then there are those that are doing it full time,
right.
whether that be full time for yourself or full time during a day job. And you've gone through all three of those stages. What advice would you give? If you could travel back in time to Scott 10 years ago, 15 years ago, what would you tell yourself if you could just show up and say a piece of advice?
Well, the one thing I would have done is I would have started doing my own projects sooner. I would, instead of doing client work, I would have moved away from. Now back when I started off, there really wasn't any kind of an internet, so that's a little different. But so it wasn't as easy to build. I mean, the internet is. I mean, it's in some ways there's a lot of competition, but there's so much opportunity there that we just didn't have before to make your own, company, your own brand, and promote yourself. The gatekeepers are gone. I wish I would have started doing my own stuff sooner. That's the main thing that if I had to go back, and give myself some advice, that would be what I would say for that.
Okay, cool. That's great. Okay, well let's do this and let's do this one and switch seats. Because I forgot.
Oh yeah, now we've got our own.
Now we've got our own little. There we go.
Oh, it's like I'm in a whole different place.
Right. I forgot to switch it. So anyway, Scott, where can we find you and your work?
You can find me right down here at circworks.com or Circworks on YouTube or I think there's a Snapchat there that you probably won't find me because I haven't done Snapchat in forever. But I am on IGTV, Instagram, all that stuff. Twitter, sort of like if you hit me up in Twitter, I will answer you because I get an alert. But other than that, I don't post a lot other than to share like, I contributed to this Kickstarter or something like that. But mostly YouTube, Instagram, and on my website.
Great. That's awesome. And you can find me at corykerr.com. And I just did that thing that I was talking about the other day on the art check, where now I have some of my inks up as well as some of my colors. So you can check that out. Fresh and brand new 2-second edit on the Squarespace that I've got there. You can check me out on Twitter, where I will do long rants about ancient Greece. And you probably don't want to follow me on there if you're not interested in that. And then all of my work is on Instagram as well. And so I will continue to do these. And so if this type of thing with different artists is interesting between now and September or August, whenever I'm doing that show, and you haven't yet, subscribe, hit that little bell so you get notified when I go live. I also have a live show that I do 3 times a week with Joshua Kimball, and so you'll get notified on that as well. I think that's it. And I didn't have time to do like a outro animation or anything, so here's our intro slide. And I'd just like to thank everybody who joined us in the chat, and we will see you guys the next time I go live.